Coming to you from the Yard Dawgs Podcast studio. A show for the fans, by the fans. Talking all things Cleveland Browns. From our mic to your ears. With your hosts, Jason Hand, Mikey P, and Ian Cold Train Coldiron.
Are you ready for some football?
We're ready for some football, baby.
Yes, you are now in the yard. Welcome to the Yard Dawgs Podcast, a show for the fans, by the fans. This is season 4, episode 131. I'm your host, Jason Hand, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Mikey P, and from the BFO, Browns Fans Only, Pete Barker. What's going on, gentlemen? How are we doing tonight?
Yeah, straight out from the UK. I've just got back home. I've done my jet lag thing, and I'm ready to go again. So, yeah, let's talk Hall of Fame. Let's talk Hall of Fame. Browns football is back.
Yes, Browns football is back. When does the jet lag go away, Pete? I'm asking for a friend.
2 days.
Okay.
I can flick a switch 2 days.
Awesome. That sounds good. Well, Mikey P, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I actually just walked in the door about 5 minutes before we went live. So.
I'm honest with you. Mikey P looks like he's more jet lagged than I am. So
I jumped out of the car and I was like, no.
He's jet lagged from the car on the way home from work.
Yeah.
So
I was like, thank God for the traffic wasn't terrible tonight.
yeah, well, we're all here. Ian Coltrane couldn't join us this week, but he'll be back better than ever next week. Before we start our show, let's go ahead and get into the plug. Homage is our official sponsor tonight in honor of Mr. Joe Thomas. I think I might have wore this last week, but I did clean it. I have the Homage Joe Thomas shirt. Pete, you saw these shirts around at the Hall of Fame. Mikey P, these shirts were everywhere, bro. Like everybody had this shirt on. So Homage was definitely representing in the Hall of Fame game. Homage is the official apparel company of Network 216. To check out all their apparel, go to Homage. You can find their link on our Twitter page at Yard Dawgs Pod. You can find it on my Twitter page as well at Browns Huddle. But they got some cool gear. They really do. They got some nice, comfortable gear for all seasons. These T-shirts are just very comfortable. Hoodie season's right around the corner. They have fantastic, comfortable hoodies. And guess what? Even if you're not a Browns fan, every NFL team is represented. They also have MLB gear. They've got everything. Just go to Homage and check that out today. And we also just did the Homage giveaway at the Brownie Elf 1. That's his Twitter handle. He won the Homage Hall of Fame shirt that we raffled off last week. So congrats to him, the Brownie Elf 1 on Twitter. So we're always doing giveaways. If you would like to go ahead and help us out, you can subscribe to Network 216 YouTube channel. That definitely helps out the show and helps out the network. And you'll find out about all the different giveaways that we have going on. You'll see all the great content that we have going on in Cleveland sports. So, gentlemen, Pete, you were at the Hall of Fame game. So was I. We missed each other just by seconds.
We were talking about this a minute ago. I mean, I must have missed you by about 10 meters, 2 seconds. How did that happen? But wow, what an event. What an event. Wow. It's just the sounds, the smell, the atmosphere, the lot. Football's back, okay? And God bless you, America.
Yeah, it's the Hall of Fame game. It's preseason, but Pete, you're right. Football's back. When you got the Hall of Fame going on, we got preseason. Another game happening this coming Friday against the Washington Commanders. So football's in full swing, and honestly, I'm here to talk about it. So let's go ahead and get into the Hall of Fame game. Pete, from what I understand, this is your second Browns game. You live in the UK. And
you sir, have done your
down.
homework, haven't you? You've done your homework.
Well,
you know.
just pay attention, Mr. Barker. I pay attention. I think you were here for the Bengals game. Was it a Thursday?
Halloween, I think.
Halloween game last year. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So,
yeah.
2 games on American soil for me. I'm 2-0. 2-0.
You keep those stats up, buddy. I'll pay for your ticket.
Pete's undefeated.
That's what I keep telling everybody.
Pete's undefeated.
So yeah. So it didn't look good though, did it? In probably the first quarter and most of the second quarter, it didn't look good. I'm sitting amongst Jets fans, and they are handing it to me big time. Okay, so Taylor 2 halves. Okay, that's all I'm saying. First half and the second half.
Yeah, the first half was, Mikey, you obviously watched on the television. We watch it live, so I'm really interested in your perspective, because when you watch a live game, and I haven't watched it replayed on TV yet, you there's so much to see. You're kind of focusing on a lot of different things, to whereas the TV you can hear the commentators, you can see what the camera's feeding to you. But yeah, you're right, Pete. The first half was kind of slow. Kellen Mond, I mean, it seemed like a lot of dump offs to me. Like I don't know, the playbook wasn't open for him, but I didn't see any deep balls. It was just a lot of dunk and dinks, and
I have a theory.
Offense.
I have a theory on that, but let's Mikey P tell us what it was like to watch it on the TV, because we were there.
Well, watching on the TV, you start noticing things, and you notice pretty early on that Kellen Mond is not an NFL caliber quarterback. That was first and foremost what I noticed. He doesn't throw with any type of and that doesn't mean that he can't become one. It just looks like he's very disjointed. It almost looks like he's aiming when he's throwing the ball, like he's not throwing it naturally, versus when they brought DTR in the second half, he was letting it rip. I think confidence is a big thing. But Kellen Mond, just even on that, he threw one out. It was like an out pattern to a tight end, and he was way off on it. He was,
yes,
and it just never looked like he had any type of rhythm. He just didn't look comfortable out there. And DTR came in the game, and he looked way more comfortable. And I don't know, Kellen Mond showed me early on. I don't think he's making this team, but that's what I noticed early on in TV. You also notice, sometimes you got guys that on TV you notice right away, like you're like, wow, that guy looks so much faster than the others he's going against, and you can almost tell it's like, I don't think that guy's going to make the team, and I think that guy's fighting for a roster spot. And I will say this though, I think the Jets have a really good front four, because they're or a defensive line rotation, because some of their even backups are going to get picked up by other teams.
Yeah. One thing that was, I don't know, I don't want to say it was surprising, but we saw the starters didn't even dress up, right? I mean, they're right in their street clothes and everything. But a player that was Anthony Schwartz. I mean, Anthony Schwartz played almost the entire game, which really speaks volumes to what Stefanski thinks about Anthony Schwartz. It's, what I'm saying? Like, he just threw him out there, and it was uneventful. I mean, he even fumbled the football. It turned it over. I think he has zero chance of making this team. What were your thoughts, Mikey P, seeing that on television?
Yeah, I thought Anthony Schwartz might get cut in the offseason. I definitely don't think he's cut out for this team. And Anthony Schwartz, I think, has some talent. He may just need a change of scenery. He's a guy that maybe needs to go play in the XFL and USFL and maybe get some confidence back, and then maybe we'll see later. But I just don't think it's going to happen here. There's way more talented guys. I mean, the wide receiver we picked up recently, Watkins, he came in immediately. just looked night and day. Like he looked like a player. And Schwartz looks like I don't know. Schwartz just looks like a track guy trying to learn how to play football. Like, I didn't know he's fast. I just don't think he's a football player.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Some guys just aren't. They're just because you're fast doesn't mean you're going to be great.
Yeah,
or even good.
Yeah,
but he was drafted for his speed first and foremost, and we all thought, wow, there's our returner, a punt returner, and it just didn't work out. But hey.
yeah, it was just something I saw, and I'm like, I'm not surprised, but I'm a little surprised, that Anthony Schwartz is out there. And then the amount, I don't know how many minutes he played, but it seemed to me like he played most of the game. So he was out there most of the snaps. Pete, I want to ask you, so we drafted a wide receiver, Cedric Tillman. For the limited action he had, I've been waiting to see this guy. What did you think as you saw Cedric Tillman on Thursday night? And he caught a couple passes.
Number one thing I would say is potential. Okay, that's there's a couple of other things I'd like to say. I don't think Kev Stefanski really understood what he's got to be doing, because this isn't our starting 11. This isn't even our second 11. This is the third and fourth stringers trying to compete for places. So Tillman, I'm imagining Tillman and Watson. Okay, can he be an out for Watson? Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
Yeah. Same question, Mikey P. What did you think about Tillman out there Thursday?
I thought Cedric Tillman looked solid. He definitely was creating some separation out there. He ran some clean routes. He only had 2 catches. It seemed like he did a lot more of that, but he only had 2 catches. There were 2 pretty critical catches, though. I think Tillman is a guy in the long run that's could eventually, either replace, if they don't decide to re-sign DPJ, or if they move on from Amari Cooper next year. I think Cedric Tillman is the next guy up. And I think he'll get some PT and some playing time for sure this year. I'm looking forward to watching him come into this offense and give us a dynamic we haven't really had. Like, he's a big-bodied receiver. We haven't had a ton of those guys. I think the last real big-bodied receiver we had was DPJ is pretty. He's good sized body, but one of those guys that can go get it. Hasn't been since Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I read the stats, I was actually surprised he only caught a couple balls, because I was watching for him on Thursday, and he was definitely dynamic. I know one time he was open in the end zone. I forget if it was. I guess it must have been Mond. I'm like, throw it to Tillman, and he didn't. But
we saw it. Honestly,
yeah,
there's a few times that we're thinking. Mond could have looked a lot better than he actually was, because unfortunately it was here we go again. It was the play calling. I'm sorry. But
well, we did talk about Mond. Let's talk about DTR, because Mikey P, I think you mentioned in your opening statement, he had a hell of a night. He really did. He rushed for 30-something yards. He was 8 for 11, I think, passing, 82 yards, threw a touchdown.
He blocked.
He threw him.
Oh, did he? Jesus H! Did you see that block he made? Oh.
Hell of a block. I'm sure that Stefanski pulled him aside after that one. Hey, let's not do that right now. But what were your thoughts on DTR, Pete?
Oh, chalk and cheese. First half to second half. I've got a commentary to make on that, but I'll save that for a little bit later. This guy is kind of like, with the third and fourth stringers that we saw. It's exactly how I want to see Watson play. Okay, he sees 1, 2, 3, not available. I'm on the move. I'm mobile. I'm gone. Shh. And they couldn't handle it. So he's gone from QB4 to give the guy a job. Give him a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I mean, for a first game in the NFL, it's a Hall of Fame game, yes, but I thought he had a great game. He definitely opened up some eyes of Browns fans, and a lot of people like myself were just wanting to see him play.
Yes.
Because I didn't know a whole lot about him before the draft. I'm not as big of a college junkie as Mikey P. So I was excited to see him for Hall of Fame game. He played almost the whole, I think he played the entire second half, or maybe most of the second half. So he was electrifying. He did remind me of like a young Deshaun Watson, same skill set. He's going to make defenders think about it, because he can run, he can throw. I mean, he's got multiple talents and multiple skill sets. So, having Dorian Thompson-Robinson on the team is, I think he's definitely going to make this team. Mon's probably not going to be here. So,
well, I mean, you look at something over the last couple of years when you talk about that. Look at what Baltimore has been able to do over the last years with success. Like the offense they built was built for Lamar, but it's also built for Tyrone Huntley to come in there and play. And then they have another guy behind him. I forget his name. That very similar skill set. You look at what we have in the quarterback room right now. I think Kellen Mond is out. I think he's the clear-cut out guy. You have Watson, of course, is your starter. Then you have Joshua Dobbs, similar skill set to Watson, not as dynamic, obviously. Then you have DTR, who probably has more speed than Watson, but doesn't have quite the arm. But he's a mature guy. He was a fifth-year college quarterback, played in that Chip Kelly system. I think what they're building offensively in Cleveland with Watson, like each one of those quarterbacks, you don't ever want your starter to go down, but you almost have faith that
if he goes down, it's
always one of those two guys. The offense isn't going to change too much. Like the play calling shouldn't have to change very much
with Dobbs and DTR.
Yeah, just their skill set's different. It's not like you're going from, obviously if Kellen Mond was our backup, like it's a different skill set because he's not as mobile. He's more of a big arm quarterback, or that's what he was when he was at Texas A&M. But he's not throwing with any confidence, right? He's a big arm guy that's lacking confidence. Maybe he needs to go and be in another offense that kind of fits his skill set, but I just don't think it's here.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Dobbs reminds me a lot of Brissett from last year. This is your play, you go and do that type of guy. Thompson, wow. We saw it with our own eyes, Jason. Come on. He's going to go off the hoof. He's going to do it off the bat. And he's going to, wow. Sort of it was very electric. Wow.
It was very, very good. Definitely something you want to see out of a quarterback that you just drafted. Let's talk about the running backs room. What we saw Thursday night. Obviously, we had some news come out yesterday. I think it was, or maybe it was today. I think it was yesterday. Was it today? Again, I've got jet lag, so my days are kind of running together. But Demetric Felton, he had 7 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. John Kelly, he started the game. I thought he had a solid performance. And then, of course, DTR had 6 carries for 36 yards himself. But what did you guys think about what we saw on Thursday night, and what does this news do with our running back room? With Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford, with the injury. Wow, honestly.
Like, this is a tricky one, guys, because hamstring injuries are tricky. It could take 6 to 8 weeks, and then it can linger. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a quick thing, especially when you're a running back.
there's the same issue with Burrow at the moment as well. I know it's a calf issue, but I mean, that's 6 to 8 weeks, and you cannot tell if it's going to be short side of 6 or long side of 8. So it's just, I don't know.
I mean, Jerome Ford is going to miss some time. Have we heard how much time he's possibly going to miss?
I think they said that he's definitely out probably for the rest of the preseason. He might be ready by week 1.
Mike, did you see?
But I've heard some of the names floated out there as possibly bringing in. Like I heard Ezekiel Elliott possibly being brought in. The money would have to be right to bring in Ezekiel Elliott.
They can't pay Elliott's money, surely.
Yeah.
Why have we let Kareem go? Junior, come on. Why have we let Kareem go? Stupid.
I think they look at what John Kelly and Demetric Felton bring. Like, Kareem Hunt definitely lost a step last year. There was definitely something off, and it's a financial thing. I mean, I don't know. You will have to trust AB. Does he trust, going with a running back room of Demetric Felton and John Kelly and Nick Chubb?
Yeah.
If the offense is going to be more of a pass style versus run in the pass, like, Nick Chubb we're not going to need Nick Chubb for 30 carries.
And don't forget that Watson's mobile.
Yeah. So the offense could look a little different. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think they're looking to spend a ton of money on bringing a guy in as a backup. I think they'll see what they have. Obviously, as you get further into the preseason, you'll see something, because I don't think Ezekiel Elliott will probably get signed until maybe halfway through preseason or early on. He's probably, and most of those guys like him, you have a Dalvin Cook that's still out there, hasn't signed yet. Like a lot of those guys are waiting to see if there are an injury to a starter, and then they can capitalize on it, and maybe they can get a bigger deal. Because at this point of their careers, they've made good money. So they can kind of play the waiting game sometimes.
That's where the agents come in.
Yeah, you play the long. Sometimes you're playing the short game to play the long game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they would wait to bring in a veteran. I mean, you got Nick Chubb, you got Felton, you got John Kelly Jr. If something were to happen to Felton or Kelly, then now you're talking about probably bringing in a veteran. But at this point in the game right now, I mean, Nick Chubb, I mean, he would be a bell cow on a lot of teams, meaning, an every down back. So definitely with him and Felton and John Kelly Jr., I think we're good at the moment. It did suck, obviously, to hear the news about Jerome Ford, because I've been excited to see him this year. To me, he looks like a mini Nick Chubb to me. But
right.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at on it. Again, with hamstring injuries, it could be something, he's back for week 1 or 2, or it could be something that lingers half the season. You just don't know how serious it is.
Never know. Yeah.
You don't. And, that's an important muscle. You can't mess around with that. So anytime I hear hamstring injuries and they're just letting them sit for a couple of days, that always raises a red flag for me. Like, just pay attention to that, because that could definitely turn into something very serious. So it was unfortunate to hear about that. But at this point, I mean, are we all in the agreement that we probably won't bring in somebody from the outside, or you think maybe it's a possibility we will?
Well, I think they're probably going to want to wait. Like, you want to kind of wait and see. Like, you got 3 more preseason games. It's the added advantage of having that 4th preseason game. You can get a longer look at some of these younger guys.
Completely, yes. That's the whole point of it. Yeah, right.
And then
you're right.
You're going to start seeing cuts soon, too, also.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of wait and see. And then sometimes, you might see a guy, you're like, man, this team, and sometimes good guys get cut on other teams that are a little bit deeper at positions. I mean, you kind of play the waiting game.
Yeah.
AB's not
completely agree. Mikey P, the voice of reason.
Doesn't make rash. He doesn't make rash decisions. That's one thing you can say about these guys that are like, they're analytics driven. Like, they don't live their life 100% by analytics. Like, you can't do that, because it would get too chaotic. But they are typically going to not make rushed decisions. They're going to calculate everything, make sure it works. Because what are you going to do? Like if they went out and signed Ezekiel Elliott tomorrow and they signed him to say a 1 year $7 million deal or $3 million deal, whatever, is what I've heard. I've heard 1 year $3 million is he might be willing to take. But then Jerome Ford is back. I mean, I've got
to stop that straight there now. Zeke is not going to want to come in here on a 1 year, 7 million deal to be RB2 to Chubb. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Zeke probably end up somewhere like Buffalo where he looks at, even if he's brought in as an RB2, he's not that far off from being RB1.
Yeah. It's something definitely to pay attention to. You never like to hear injuries, but we had one with Jerome Ford and his hamstring. Now, another thing that came out today is both Alex Wright and Isaiah Thomas both had knee surgery, like knee scopes. And that happened today. I think both of them happened today. The injuries happened on 2 separate days, but they're both defensive ends. They're both behind Myles Garrett. What do you guys think that does to our defensive end room, and how do you think we can move around? Or do we bring someone else in? It's kind of like with the running backs. Do you bring someone else in, or with the roster that we got, can we move guys around to make this work? Mikey P.
Well, I think with the defensive end room right now, you figure your top 3 guys are Zadarius, Miles, and then Obo is your 3rd guy. Mm-hmm. Alex Wright and Isaiah Thomas were going to be probably 3, 4, and 5 are going to kind of intermingle, intertwine. So now you're really down to your fourth guy now is Isaiah McGuire, who they really liked, and they really like still. So they may just roll with those 4. There's some other guys on the roster that have been brought in. They just signed somebody else yesterday to the roster too. So I think I don't anticipate them going out and signing anybody because they know that both of these players will be back, probably in those, weeks 1 through 6 in the regular season. So with that being said, I don't see them going out and signing anybody. If they were like season-ending injuries or they were going to be out, longer than that, then you might see them, bring in somebody.
And Isaiah McGuire, he played on Thursday night. I think he batted the ball down. He's very fast off the edge. So it was cool to see him also on Thursday night as well. Pete?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was. It was. Wow. What can I say? I bow down to Mikey P's knowledge again. Just,
yeah. It's kind of weird. I mean, they're both defensive ends. They both had knee injuries. They're both, you never like to hear about knee injury, but it's not as serious as like a torn ACL or something where you're like out for like a whole year. They had minor surgeries on your knee, if you can call any surgery minor. So they could be back anywhere from weeks 1 to 3, like Mikey said. So I think we hang tight, and we have some players on that defensive line. And you'd mentioned Isaiah McGuire moving up maybe to sit behind Myles Garrett. You still have Okoronkwo and Zadarius Smith.
Yes.
You got some big dogs on that defensive line. We might see a little bit more of these players being in bubble wrap during the preseason, but as long as we can get through the rest of this preseason and training camp unscathed, I think we'll be okay, and I don't think we need to bring anybody else in either.
Mm-hmm. No. I think we're set.
Drew Forbes, did you guys hear anything about him? He got carted off the field in practice a couple days ago. Maybe it was Monday. Maybe it was yesterday.
I was trying to find an update on him. Obviously, he's a rotational lineman, been a backup most of his time, so he's a bubble fringe guy, roster guy, anyways. So injury for him, if he's going to miss any extended period of time, definitely could hurt his chances.
Well,
They drafted some solid offensive linemen in the draft this year. And Weipler from Ohio State and DeJuan Jones, the two Ohio State guys, really played well the other night.
Yeah, everybody was talking about DeJuan Jones and how, I mean, what is he, 6'8", 300 and some odd pounds, 375, something like that. I mean, just a huge specimen of a man.
Kidding me, right? This guy is a monster, an absolute monster. If you looked at him on the field of play, he is head, at least one head above everybody else on that field. He is huge. This guy, wow, honestly, wow.
And he's athletic.
Unleash the beast, I'd say.
Yeah, he's super fast, man.
Wow.
He was a basketball guy. He was a basketball player that became a football player. Like, so he's got that natural basketball athleticism. He's quick on his feet.
Super impressed. For the British, I was there in the crowd with my wife, and even she said, "Jesus H, he's huge."
Don't let him get his hands on you.
No.
I mean, 6'8", dude. I'm 6'4", and 6'8". I mean, that's humongous. And then 375
is it? That's 6'8" high, is it? Not 6'8" wide. It is at least.
Yeah, he's got me by 125 pounds.
Sign him.
He's the type of guy that
carnage.
He's the type of guy that comes up and says, Mind if I dance with your date?
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Please don't let me stop you.
Yeah, so a couple big offensive linemen we got in the draft, no doubt about it. Final thoughts on the Thursday night game. I am looking forward to Friday night, but your final thoughts on the Thursday night football game. Pete, I'll start with you.
Honestly, I've got so much stuff to tell you. The first half, okay, we get the kickoff, we get the first play, we go down the field. Unfortunately, we missed the field goal. After that, it's Kev Stefanski. It's stale. It's the same old. Seen it all before. Second half, who gave up play calling? Kev put the Denny's card down. And he handed over play calling. And look what happens. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit. That's what I saw. I'm only telling you what I saw. Put the playbook down, Kev, and let someone else do it, and look what happens. Also, I would like to say I'm very, very impressed with Bjorkes. His punting is absolutely immense. If you saw it firsthand, this guy can punt the ball 70 yards. It's there. So there's my take. And of course, we won.
Yeah, that's always good. That's always good too.
We did win. It was a tale of two halves. I mean, I think were we down 13 points going into halftime?
Yeah. Wasn't it was it 13-0 at halftime or 13?
We scored the touchdown to go 13-7, and then
that's right.
Scored a field goal 16-7 halftime.
Yes, because Mon did throw a touchdown pass. So yeah, we did score in the first half.
We did.
Yeah, he threw to.
But does that not tell you that maybe they made some half-time adjustments, which we don't really often see, do we?
So here's the thing: when everyone always says like adjustments, like halftime adjustments, it's not a real thing. Like
no.
So when you coach football,
both teams are going to go into the locker room, and both teams are going to have their asses handed to them by their coaches.
Really, your adjustments might be minor stuff. Like you might see sometimes they might, and it could be like they might switch up a little bit of like defensive play calling. Like they might go to more a man scheme versus a zone scheme, stuff like that. You might see that happen. Play calling might get a little bit more pass heavy versus run heavy. That's when there's like when people say adjustments, everyone thinks like I've heard people think like I'm like, well, what's a halftime adjustment to you? And I've heard people say like, oh, well, they go in and they totally change the offense, and I'm like, they don't just change the playbook and say, hey boys, we're going to the run and shoot now. We're gonna go four wide. Like it just change up the types of play calling. Because if you think about it, you only have 10-15 minutes at halftime in the NFL, anyways.
Not even enough time to get up and go get a beer. So
sometimes
he ain't changed.
We know that in the crowd. It's kind of like, geez.
And it's a preseason game too, so you're gonna get
barely get time to go to pee.
Yeah, you're gonna get the most vanilla base defenses being called, the most vanilla offenses being called, because these teams, like we play the Jets in the regular season, you're not going to see a lot of the bread and butter stuff. So a lot of times it is preseason is probably the biggest time you can see like, is your depth better than other teams' depth?
Yeah,
because the play calling is a little bit more vanilla. You see more special teams plays, like because you have so many different guys trying to make special teams. So you see a lot of different changes there. That's why sometimes you see there's more kick returns and punt returns in the preseason there is sometimes in the regular season.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Well, Mikey, Pete, that was a awesome game. We
Browns football's back. Yes.
Which is a plus, and football is back. The main reason why I went there, and the only reason why we even played in the Hall of Fame game, was because of the great Joe Thomas. And I was lucky enough to go to the enshrinement. I know you guys probably saw the speeches on TV. Guys, I've never, that was my first enshrinement I've ever been to. It was majestic. The stadium was full of energy. The speeches were incredible. I've always liked, I watch the Hall of Fame speeches every single year because they're all just so very special, and they kind of go through their story of how they got in the NFL, their journey into the NFL, and just talk. They might share a couple stories. They mention their families and what their, maybe their mom and dad or friend or brother and sister meant to them. And it's just, all of them are just special in their own way. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're serious, but they're all really cool to see. Mikey, I'm sure you saw the enshrinement. Let's talk about some of the great speeches that I don't know if did you guys watch the whole thing?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw Joe's speech. I saw Klecko's speech. And
that was a good one.
I saw Chuck Howley's son's speech too for his dad. I think those are the three I saw, and I saw a little bit of Zach Thomas's.
Wow.
I saw a little bit of Zach Thomas too. We got there 25 minutes late. we were taking an Uber from Cleveland to Canton, and the Uber took forever to get there, and it was just a thing. But we did see the second half of Zach Thomas's speech, and interestingly enough, my flight home, Darrelle Revis and Zach Thomas were on my flight. So that was pretty cool. I saw him in the airport.
Wow.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, Darrelle Revis is now bigger than Zach Thomas, which is
yes. He's a lot bigger than Zach Thomas. But yeah, they're in the airport, and people were getting selfies with them. And Darrelle Revis, I think he might have been with his lady friend or wife, but Zach Thomas was with his whole family. And so
wow.
Really cool to see them there in the airport. But you'd mentioned Joe Klecko, Mikey P. That speech was awesome. Like, I don't remember him playing. I mean, he played in the late 80s for the Jets, but there's a funny thing that he mentioned towards the end. He said, he looked up the highest paid defensive lineman. That guy is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald made $31.7 million. He said his entire 1986 salary is Aaron Donald's 0.7.
Wow.
Because in 1986, Klecko made $700,000, and Donald made 31.7. So his entire salary was his 0.7. But
don't that put in perspective? Wow.
Yes.
Shit.
And I don't know if you got to see this because you're there live. I was watching it on TV. One of Klecko's teammates that was on the line with him, they called it the New York Sack Exchange. Well, originally it was going to be him and Gastineau's, the only two guys that they wanted to sponsor and called the Sack Exchange. And Klecko refused to give them permission to do it and market it and make any money off it without all four guys being involved. And that's how all four guys ended up being part of that New York Sack Exchange. So his teammates were even like, this is the type of guy that Joe was, that he wasn't going to do anything unless it was beneficial for all, not just for him. And that selflessness, goes a long way. And, obviously a lot of people forget, like that Jets team, they might have gone to a Super Bowl as I think it was 1981 or 82, but they played in they call it the Mud Bowl against Miami where they lost 14-0. But it was basically they were basically playing in the mud the whole game. But those Jets 80s teams were pretty solid. I mean, Bernie Kosar had an epic comeback in 1986 before we played Denver against those Jets teams. So Jets weren't a bad program in the 80s.
Yeah. Wow. Just special. He talked about his then girlfriend, now wife. He was showing up to tryouts and he was starting to get cold feet, and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, grabbed the keys and threw him out the window and said, "You get out there to practice." And so he said, if it weren't for her, he would have probably never even been a football player. Wow. Because he's going to give up. But
I didn't see much of that myself, but I was witness to the Jim Brown tribute, and it's very much the same. It's stuff that I never knew, to be honest with you. It would probably change most Browns fans' ideas about Art Modell.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, and the wow, honestly, I understand this.
DeMarcus
still emotional now.
Yeah. DeMarcus Ware had a pretty powerful moment. He reserved 3 seats for 3 of his former teammates, Marion Barber, Demaryius Thomas, and I think it was it Hillman was the other one. That had, 3 teammates, 3 guys he battled with that, passed away in early age. And that was very cool. And to see that he did that, like there's just every year. And Jason, you guys can attest because you guys were there. You guys seen something like, it's not just a game. Like you're seeing these guys reach out. This is a moment they'll remember forever. Like being inducted into
a life event. I'd say life.
These guys come back every year. Like they come back every year. Like I saw Chris Carter taking pictures on Twitter and saying like it's his favorite weekend of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Is being back in Canton, and these guys get to reminisce, and it's just a cool moment. And I'm after you guys went this year, I'm like, man, I got to make that happen. So I'm like, the next Browns player that gets in the Hall of Fame, I'm there. I'm going.
I'm going with you, Mikey P, because it was awesome. I mean,
Matthews.
Yes. From your lips to God's ears, Clay Matthews. Yes.
Put it out there.
I mean, it's a brotherhood. That's why he goes every year. I mean, there's 371 players in the Hall of Fame, and they're not all with us, right? So it's a small group, man. But the speech of the night for all 3 of us, I'm sure, was Joe Thomas. Guys, I have to admit, I shed many tears. I was proud. I was proud that Joe Thomas represented the Cleveland Browns for his entire career. In an age where players move and free agency, and he had every right to move to another contender, during his career, but he didn't do it. He stuck with Cleveland. We talked about this on the show last week, but his speech was just fantastic. I know you guys saw it on television. I'd like to get your opening thoughts on Mr. Joe Thomas. He's number 369 in the Hall of Fame. Pete, I'll start with you.
369. Wow. 10,300 snaps consecutive. Wow. The only regret I've got is I never saw the man play live. The first, I'm a jinx. I'm sorry, but the first snap he missed was the London game in 2017. Oh, how desperate is that? But, I mean, the guy, we never had a playoff game during the time he played for the Browns. That's how dedicated and Browns. Look, I'll punch my heart. That's how dedicated and Browns that man was. And I totally understand that. And his kids came on the stage. It's like, oh, don't, showstopper. I'm a grown man. I shouldn't be blubbing like this. But, total.
Did you see a photo of Jack Thomas during the parade?
We won the Steelers fans.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's it.
Raised him right.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Raised him right.
What can I say? I mean, I shouted out to him just before he was going to go into the Jim Brown tribute. He was trying on a jacket, and he looked over and waved, and it's sort of like, do you know what? That's a connection. He doesn't know I'm from Britain. He doesn't know that. Just that's epitomizes Browns.
For those of you that are joining the Yard Dawgs podcast, I see that our comments are, for some reason, they're not rolling in tonight. I'm not seeing them, but I do see you guys are there watching the show. So there must be something wrong with the system. But if you're watching this show on YouTube and you see that you're not subscribed to the Yard Dawgs, not Yard Dawgs Podcast Network 216, please hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps us out there. But I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in to the Yard Dawgs Podcast. We do have just a couple more minutes. Getting back to the Joe Thomas speech, Mikey P. Pete, you alluded to these were some rough years to be a Cleveland Browns fan and also to play for the Cleveland Browns. I thought Joe Thomas did a great job of making light of, playing for, I think it was 9 head coaches. He blocked for 20 different quarterbacks. It was like 11 different offensive coordinators. Like he said it in a way to where it wasn't, he was kind of not making fun of the Browns, but he brought it to light in a good, positive way, I thought, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Joe Thomas, Mikey P, and the things that he brought up is like, wow, yeah, he did play for so many different head coaches and quarterbacks, and some of them, weren't here for very long. There's 20 different quarterbacks. Like, he's the first player in NFL history to block for that many quarterbacks. Just some of the stats are amazing, but wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought about his positivity in the speech.
I mean, his positivity is always amazing. Like, he's just a happy-go-lucky, fun guy. From when he got drafted, like, instead of being in the draft room in New York with cameras around him, he's out fishing with his dad, having a good time. I mean, you saw Joe Hayden, how much Joe Hayden loves the guy. And that just shows you, like, it's not just the Browns, like, it's Browns fans. Like, Joe Hayden got cut by the Browns, went to the rival team, the Steelers, but still comes back and loves that he spent his time in Cleveland. Like, this is why, like, it's sad that Joe Thomas never got to experience the playoffs, but in many ways, like, just him being able to celebrate, that he got enshrined. He's a Hall of Famer. The 10,363 snaps. Those are all things they can't take away with him. Like, there are lots of guys that have won Super Bowls. There are not lots of guys that are in the Hall of Fame. He's 301 of what? 300? You said 369.
370.
So it was just special to watch. I mean, you saw, like, former teammates like Mitchell Schwartz were there, John Grieco, Joel Petonio was there, and Joel Petonio is probably your next one of your next Browns players to be in the Hall of Fame, along with probably like a Myles Garrett's probably going to be there too. You're going to have a lot of Browns soon, going in the Hall of Fame. And I think Joe Thomas started the process. He's always banged the drums for the Browns. I think, the tides are starting to turn. This is not the same old Browns. And I think the Hall of Fame was just kind of a cool culmination of things. And I think Joe's going to be able to see this team have success and celebrate it. Maybe not, not as a player, but he definitely is a Cleveland Brown for life. And it was just awesome to see, him sharing that moment, and his former teammates showed up for him. They don't have to do that. And that just shows you how he touched those guys' hearts. And just very cool.
Well said, Mikey P. I salute that.
He had talked about the private jet from Randy Lerner, and it smelled like fish guts. He said his plane probably never felt like fish guts. Talking about, during the draft, he was fishing with his dad instead of being at the draft. So, there's that story that was good. He gave props to the Haslams, who were also there in turning this organization around. Now, we know they still have a lot of work to do, but he gave props to the Haslams as well. So I thought that was good. But I listened to Mr. Haslam's speech at the Jim Brown tribute, and it would change your mind about the man. It would, because he's not universally popular. But if you heard the speech, it's kind of, wow. The guy, the man, the billionaire, he gets it. He gets it. Honestly, he gets it. Trust me, he gets it. Yeah.
We've
said on this show that Haslam is an owner that it took him a while to learn how to be an NFL owner. I think we talked about this maybe an episode or two ago, Mikey P. It just took him a while to learn how to be an NFL owner, and he suffered some bumps and bruises along the way. But we believe that he's well on his way to being a great owner in the NFL and turning this organization around, and so that we're not the joke anymore, and that he's building something that's not a flash in the pan, but something that's we're going to be here for a long time. So
good to hear.
When you talk about owners, you want guys that care about, you want an owner that's not going to be afraid to spend money. And they want to win. And that's what you're looking for when you're looking for an owner of a sports team. They're not looking like, what's our bottom line? How much profit are we going to turn this year? Like, they want to win, and they want to win badly. Like, these guys are billionaires. They don't always get into it to become multi-billionaires. Like, they get into it because they want the adulation and the ability to say, hey man, I'm a Super Bowl champion. Like, I guarantee if you ask Jerry Jones, that guy would do anything to win a Super Bowl for sure.
No doubt. Well, just want to put a bow on the Joe Thomas speech. He talked about his dad. One story they shared about his dad is strapping on the skis and skiing to work during a snowstorm when he couldn't get out of the driveway with his car, and he did it because that's what you did. You show up, and availability. What was that quote? Availability is the best ability.
Yep.
And that.
No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. Your best ability is availability.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. But but Joe Thomas, that was his whole career, man. He was available. The 10,363 snaps. That is incredible. Like, he even talked about during the speech, like, everything has to go right. You can't
in that position. The position he played as well. 10,000. They're just anywhere near that. In that position.
He got slapped in the chest 10,363 times.
Exactly. So I'm coming back for more. I thought, wow. He must have got to 9,999 and thought, you know what? I'm going to bust through the barrier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff, man. Just a Hall of Famer all the way. We all knew that he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and just what a special weekend. My dad and I got to stay in Cleveland. We shared a trip together. We did so many special things. We got tatted up. We got tattoos while we were in Cleveland. My dad.
Show and tell.
I can't. It's under my shirt, and I'm not going to do that. But my dad did get the new dog logo. A lot of people are bashing the new dog logo, but he got it on his forearm. So we got tatted together. We saw a Guardians game. We went to the Hall of Fame game Thursday night. We saw the Enshrinement ceremony. So it was just good trip with my dad. I mean, we've been to Cleveland several times, and each time is just so very special. But this was special for a lot of reasons. And Joe Thomas is at the top of that. I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, as a Browns fan, he's just so very special to Cleveland. And we all knew as soon as we drafted him in 2007 with the 3rd pick that we knew he was going to be a fantastic offensive lineman. And but boy, I didn't know he was going to be a Hall of Famer, you know. So he gave us a lot of good years in Cleveland, and I'm sure we were all happy to see him get enshrined on Saturday.
And the Brit was there. Yeah.
And the Brit was there. And I missed him by minutes.
10 meters. I reckon 10 meters, 2 seconds. Like, damn.
We were going in the gate, Mikey P, and Christy Acuity was walking out like she was trying to, I don't know what, she was walking real fast the other way, and I flagged her down. She goes, "Oh, Pete's right in there. Go say hi." I went in there. I didn't find Pete. I was looking, man.
We were doing a live giveaway. This stupid stuff we do. We did a live giveaway at the Hall of Fame game. It's like, well, whatever.
Well, we do have just a couple more minutes, and I want to give you an opportunity, Pete Barker, to talk about BFO, all the great things that you're doing, the giveaway that you just mentioned, that you guys had a giveaway Thursday night, but just talk about the BFO, because you and Christy Acuity are the founders of this group. It's a Facebook page. You have over 11,000 members now, so the floor is yours, sir.
We do. A quick one on the giveaway was we took a deck of cards into the stadium and we pitched up and we decided we were going to do like a quick draw, who's going to win. And you wouldn't believe how many people watched it in the group. There must have been 300 people watching the live. So that's what we do. We give. And we just recently finished They done a little Pee-wee team that we sponsor, the East 88th Street Browns organisation. We fund them. We put the kids in uniforms. These are kids from inner city, okay, who turn up to practices sometimes without even laces in their shoes. Okay, so it's no. We've got to do better. Okay. And so we sponsor them, and we get the members to donate to the causes, which is to put the kids in uniforms and helmets. And this year we sponsored the cheerleaders section. Okay, so we're putting the cheerleaders, we're getting them drinks bottles, we're doing all the rest of it. It's a shocking indictment, really, of the Cleveland Council Board, if you like, because they'd rather have their dust carts painted nice and polished and stuff and spend the money on that. No. Spend the money on the kids, because that's the future. Okay. And that's what we're about. BFO, we do positive Browns group. Don't take no shit. Okay, because people want to trash talk the Browns. Go and do it in other groups. With
no drama.
Group. No, sir. No. You know it, and you guys donated to the cause as well. So, and it's not gone unnoticed. Put good out there. Good deeds, we call it. # good deeds. What can I say? 11,000 people agree with us.
If you're listening to this and you haven't joined their Facebook page yet, just go on Facebook and type in BFO Browns fans only, and it should pull up. And go ahead and join, and they'll approve you. And it's just a positive Browns fan page on Facebook. They've got over 11,000 members. As you just heard from Pete, they do a lot of amazing things for the community. They just did something spectacular for the kids football team. They raised $3,000 ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we did.
To put them in uniforms and help out the inner city kids. So I asked Pete if they do that's like one giveaway a year, one donation a year, and they do several. They're always giving. So just you got a great fan page.
You got some fun guys in that group too. You got Ray's a member of that group. Ray Dog Frisbee.
Yeah.
You got Big Willie's in there. If you've ever seen Big Willie, that guy is a hoot.
We've got players in the group. With a little bit incognito, but we've got players in the group. We've got players' families in the group. We've got players' brothers, sisters, mothers, nephews, children.
Tommy. I think
so. This is why we have to. This is why we have to keep it positive all the time, because I can't give you names, but there's 6 active players that are in the group.
Wow. Good stuff.
This is why we have to keep it positive, you see. So,
are the Barking Brown show coming on next?
I'm not sure.
I think they probably are. We actually have to land this plane because it's a little after 8 and the Barking Brown show is on next. But Pete, thank you so much for coming on the Yard Dawgs podcast to talk about Hall of Fame weekend. So glad you got to come up. And like I said, man, if you keep having this winning streak, we're gonna have to chip in and buy your season tickets.
I'm back in November for the Cardinals game. Okay. A lot of people are saying that's a given, but it's not.
No game is a given.
No.
You know, Pete. If your like Prime Minister is listening right now, he's probably going to send you to Australia for the next World Cup game for England, because he's like, this guy is undefeated. I got to send him to.
Yes. Do some good.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for watching the show. The Barking Brown show is on next. I like to end all of our shows with the Go Browns. So Mikey P, Pete Barker, if you'll join me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go Browns.
Go Browns. You've got it.
Go Joe Thomas. See you next week, guys.